All right, so on this episode of Hodaka Combat Wombat restoration, pick up where we left off and just continue dismantling. So this is the reed cage. So it's a two-stroke. This one uses reeds. They have different methods of doing two strokes. Some use rotary discs like Kawasaki did. They use a reed cage in the intake. So we'll remove this. You really don't have to take the engine apart to get it out of here by the looks of it, but it'll make it easier and lighter weight for me. So I'm going to go ahead and dismantle some of the top of the engine here just so I can make it easier on myself to lift out of there. So here's your intake, and then inside of here is our reeds. Maybe that's not, maybe, you know, this is just piston port induction. This is not a reed. Okay, so I was wrong. I thought it was a reed induction. It's not, it's just piston port induction. You'll understand that more when I take the cylinder off. And then I can show you guys the cylinder. So let's go ahead and take the head off. Let's see what size socket we need for that quick. All right, 17. So 17 millimeter will get us our head off of here. Four of them. Very small engine. By the way, I don't think I said this is a 125cc two-stroke. Not real big, but two-strokes make a lot of power for their size. A 125 two-stroke will make a lot more power than an equivalent four-stroke. The difference is in how the power comes on. A lot of people will try to tell you that two-strokes are notorious for not having any low-end torque, and that can be true on some. It's not really a general rule. Because of how the manufacturer built the engine, there are ways to reclaim or ways to make sure the bike still has low-end torque. And I'll show you some of my other two-stroke bikes in later episodes, and we can see how they do that. This bike, I've never ridden it, so I can't tell you what it's going to be like. We'll find out together when we put this all back together, get it running, and take it out on the trail. So here's your head bolts, kind of almost like a reverse bolt. So there's threads on the inside, so it must be studs down in here. That one's out. That one's out. Alright, so let's get these all. So here comes the head. Alright, so there's our cylinder head. So there, it's actually very clean. Actually very clean. Here's our head gasket. Let's just put this back, because I don't think the head's going to need much cleanup work. That's a very clean head. I'm surprised it's that clean. This bike may not have had a lot of run time. I don't really have a lot of history on the bike. I just bought it from a guy because, you know, it was an interesting bike, and I like anything that's kind of interesting. So now the cylinder should just come off. You want to be very careful that you don't break. I think to make my life easier here, I'm going to take this clutch cable off quick. Just get out of my way and make my life a little bit easier. Unscrew it out of there. Should loosen the cable up at the top end first. I won't be fighting me so much. Well, I apologize for that little interruption. The battery on my GoPro camera died. Anyway, so I got the clutch cable off. Just make my life probably a little bit easier. Get myself a dead blow hammer here. You want to be very careful when trying to knock a cylinder loose. You don't want to hit up or down, because you'll break these fins, okay? If you do happen to break a fin, it's not the end of the world. A good machinist can weld them up and make them look like they never happened. But it's just easier if you don't even bother to ruin them, okay? So I'm gonna back the piston down here in the bore. What we want to do is just give it a couple little taps side to side. Oh, see how it broke? Probably pop right off now. Yep. And you want to don't do any damage to your piston. You're keeping it. All right. So here, hopefully you can see this on camera. So here's what a piston port design looks like. Inside the cylinder wall, you can see these little ports. So as the piston goes up and down, okay, it covers and uncovers these ports. Okay, and different ports are intake and exhaust, obviously. And as it uncovers and covers ports, it allows it to suck in air-fuel mixture and expel gases. So that's how they run their two strokes. And looking inside, I'm going to clean this all up and look at it real well. It's got some spots. We may have to get this cleaned up. We'll have to make some measurements to see if it's worn out, if it needs to be bored over or whatnot. The piston looks pretty clean. You can see this piston only has one ring in it. Some have multiple rings, some have, like this one, just one ring. So I'm not going to deal with that at the moment. But all of this will allow me to get the engine out a little bit easier, I think. All right. So I think we'll call that quits for today. I'm going to go get myself some coffee and maybe a little breakfast. And when we come back next time, we'll continue with removing the engine from the frame. Get out in the garage and work on something, guys. All right, so we're back. We're going to remove the rest of the engine from the frame. Pretty simple. There's a half-inch bolt here, so you need a half-inch socket wrench, half-inch bolt here in the front and the center, and then 2 half-inch bolts, one up here and one down here in like this cradle that's built in as part of the frame, okay? So we're gonna take these 3 bolts out and see if we can't lift this out. I'm expecting it not to be all that heavy of an engine. So one bolt. Bottom bolt. It's good to know if these are the same size, so that way I know if they go. That way I can know if they have to go back in a certain place. They're the same size. Now let's see if we can get the center bolt out. This bolt. It actually looks like all 3 bolts are exactly the same, so that's all good. Now that everything is loose, I did take the drive chain off previously off camera, and I figured that was a big deal to see that. Had a master link and it just came right out. Seems to be wedged in there in the front. So let's get my persuasion tool. It's a big old flat blade screwdriver, which we can get away with now because the frame's not painted, but if the frame was all nice and new, we wouldn't want to do it this way. Let's see here, what can we do? It's out of the bottom, and there's the rest of the engine. There we go. Now as you can see, the rest of it, well, it's pretty simple. Okay, well, a couple bolts will take this out, deal with the brake pedal and its springs, and start taking wheels off. That's it for now.